Welcome to the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, where business owners, thought leaders, and community champions from across Central Illinois come to share their story. The Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. Anything less would be uncivilized.
What's up, Central Illinois? I'm Derek Hayden. I'm here with Garrett Ulmer. We are your hosts for the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, powered by Zambu. Zambu's a delicious grapefruit or wildberry vodka-based spirit infused with a Brazilian buzz button. It's smooth, tasty, and leaves you with a signature tingle. Learn more at zambuliquors.com. Zambu, taste the tingle. All right, Central Illinois, today's guest is a husband and father of two. He is the owner and founder of the Storyteller Studios in Springfield, Illinois. Ladies and gents, please welcome Josh Hester. How you doing, Josh?
I'm great. I feel like there should be an applause sound effect right there.
You know, we've had multiple people tell us that, so we need to look into it.
You have a voice for this, for sure. Like,
hey, I don't have a face for it. That's just the voice. The face didn't come with
it. Thanks very much for having me.
No, we appreciate your time.
Yep, we're excited to learn more about your story, Josh. Before we do, though, I'm going to kick it over to Garrett, and he's going to take you through our speed round questions.
Okay.
All right, Josh, we've got 6 questions. We typically say under 60 seconds and you win the $1 million. So if you go over, you're going to be $1 million light today. So, okay.
Tough. Okay.
First concert that you ever attended?
Oh, you know what? That was probably the Stone Temple Pilots. When the Stone Temple Pilots came to the Illinois State Fair.
I like
awesome.
it.
I like it.
So already you pegged me, you know exactly where, you know, I sort of came from. I'm a 90s
Gotcha.
kid.
That grunge era.
Yep.
Nice. Favorite movie?
I can't answer that question. I mean, you guys know what I do for a living?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, shoot. Favorite ice cream? We'll pass then. Favorite ice cream flavor?
I go through phases. I have a raging sweet tooth. Right now, I mean, you can never go wrong, in my opinion, with cookies and cream.
There you go. Nice. Are you an iPhone or Android guy?
I have an iPhone. I tried an Android for about a year, and it was fine. The problem was no one around me also had an Android. That makes your life difficult when you have
it definitely does, for sure.
I've got an iPhone right now.
Gotcha. Favorite social media platform?
I love Instagram because we're in an era of our lives, my wife and I, where we're really busy, and I just like looking at pictures of, you know, people say that like posting pictures of food and babies on Instagram is annoying, but like I'm here for it. Like that's
nice.
I want to know what you're eating. I want to see your kids doing silly stuff. Like that's what I'm into. So
for sure.
I like it.
And last but not least, why Central Illinois?
Well, I grew up here. I love Springfield. I really do believe that we can become the best small city in America. And I'm here just trying to make that happen. I went away for college like a lot of people do. I came back in 2003.
Okay.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, nice work, Josh. It was like we tell a lot of our guests, I think you came in at 61 seconds. So you just missed the $1 million prize. We're going to have to pass it off to the next guest. So
I'm going to call that a victory, though. My team would tell you that's they probably wouldn't believe it if you told.
Well, good. That means you're going to make our job easy today. If you're a good talker, we're good at listening. So awesome. Well, Josh, if you could, for our listeners and viewers, if you could just give us kind of your background, take us back as far as you'd like to where you started, and tell us about where you are now and anything in between that you'd like to share.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, you could start quite a while ago, but when I was a kid, I was always interested in the arts. I played music in school. That was huge for me. I had some great teachers in our public school system here in Springfield in music classes. And I was always interested in movies as well. I was kind of the guy on the family trips that that held the camcorder. There's always one of those. This was before we all had cameras in our pocket, but
Yeah.
I originally went to college for music and recording and engineering. So I have a 2-year degree in audio engineering, and then I worked in a recording studio in Chicago for about a year, and man, I saw everything up close, and I realized at some point that life would be a lot better if I was the producer in the room instead of just the audio guy.
Uh-huh.
And I hadn't finished my bachelor's yet, and I wanted to, and so I went back to Columbia College in Chicago for film and video production. I graduated there in 2003 and moved back here to Springfield. I started work. My first grown-up job was for Memorial Health System in their marketing department. I was the multimedia guy there. I had great colleagues I learned a lot from. I was there for 7 years, and then I had an opportunity to produce the Weekend News Magazine show for our ABC affiliate here in town. I did that for about a year, and that was the point where I started to feel like I could go out on my own and make a go of it. I had some ideas about how to do things. I'm the kind of person that if I'm not doing my best work, I get very frustrated. It's a feature and a flaw. So for that reason, I met with some friends and we had conversations, and I had a couple really important early clients that I did work for that sort of made sure I wasn't a deadbeat at home. And that was 10 years ago, and now we've grown to really a regional company. There are 5 of us now. I'm really proud of this team. We've got 3 of us are full-time. We got a couple part-time production assistants, and we do work all over the country. And so that's pretty exciting.
Awesome.
Nice
That's
story.
great. Yeah. Well, just so you know, Josh, I know you're a first-time guest and a first-time, I guess, listener in a way of the CIBL podcast. So Garrett and I are very intrigued and interested in video in our business as well. And so we've actually done some episodes separately on our own, just talking about how business owners can use video to increase visibility and sell more of whatever their product or service is.
Absolutely. Yep.
So we're excited to learn, about your business, and your story is very interesting.
Yeah.
So you started in the healthcare industry, was your first role. So you said there was a point where you felt you could go on your own. Tell us about the process there of going on your own and, what you had to do to kind of start your own gig.
Yeah. Well, I have to credit my wife, because I think I couldn't do it without her. She's a huge support. In fact, I think if it were up to her, I would have done it sooner.
Really?
I was the one that was sort of dragging my feet, just because I'm generally a risk-averse person. I'm getting better at it, because to be in business requires that you take risks. There's no way around it.
Sure.
But really, what it was is, when social media happened, and more specifically when organizations and nonprofits of all shapes and sizes started to realize that social media was a really viable way to reach their target audiences, I saw an opportunity. When I was in film school, I studied documentary, and I've always been drawn to stories and true stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a tuning fork moment when I discovered the Documentary Center at Columbia and just fell in love with that process. And it was when social media happened that in a lot of ways, it felt like the market was moving closer actually to where I was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we know that video content that's most effective online is authentic, it's real, and that's where my passion already was. And so a lot of it in the beginning was come alongside people I had met in the corporate world through my experience previously, and doing sort of a lot of coaching, like I have some ideas about some stories we could tell, and you can post these on the social media or your website and, reach people that way. And those folks at the time, they trusted that, and they thankfully they gave me a shot. And so I sort of had, occasionally I do have the opportunity to talk to people that are considering going on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, there's no reason you can't start now, right? Like, keep your day job, keep that reliability of the regular paycheck, and just start building it. Now it's like a cliche, like your side hustle. And then there's at some point where it feels right to take the leap. And so that's what I did. And I remember saying to my wife, because the most important thing to me was that I wanted to create opportunities. I wanted to create opportunities for me to do my very best work. And so I remember I said to her, that means, I'm going to have to travel. I'm going to have to go anywhere. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember doing things in the early days, like when I built the first version of our website, I kind of downplayed our location, because this is less of a factor now than it was then. But if I was talking to a bigger brand, let's say, or someone in a more regional market, I didn't want them to be thinking about geography when they were deciding who they were going to hire, right?
Right.
And I remember in one instance, I was talking to a potential client about a project. We had a great initial conversation, and then they asked if I'd be willing to go meet with their team to talk about it more. And I said, yeah, sure, absolutely. Let me know what works best for you. And they were in Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, man, if I luck out, they'll pick a time like in the middle of the day, like 1 p.m. or something, and I can drive up there, do the meeting, and drive away, and they won't know that I'm not in Wisconsin,
Right.
So I did that. So I was doing stuff like that. And what I think has really worked well for us and for the clients that we work with is they know that they can trust that we're going to do our best. In our industry, video, the product that we create, it tends to get commoditized mentally, right?
Sure.
Like, we need people will say, well, we need a video, right? Okay, well, who are you trying to reach? It can be complicated. And then I think just focusing on quality and focusing on what's going to be most effective. And then a huge part of what we do, and that we talk a lot amongst each other here, is coach. We think of ourselves as coaches.
Okay.
For our clients too, right?
Yeah.
So based on our experience, now 10 years of doing this, we've got a really good sense of what works and what doesn't work. And so, being bold and sharing those ideas with our clients and being really collaborative, coming alongside them, I think those are all things that they appreciate. So, and that's been, it's just like my dad used to say, you got to beat the streets. Like,
that's right.
Kind of shoe leather salesman. Like, I was doing a lot of that stuff in the beginning. Fortunately, now I can do a lot of it here from my desk. But, but that said, everyone on the team is totally committed. I think that's one of the coolest things about what we're doing is we want to do our best work, and we want really great opportunities, whether they're in New York City or wherever they are. And that said, I have to say we still have a very important core base of local clients that feel the same way about us. It's about half of our business comes from the Central Illinois area, so
awesome.
They're super important too.
Great. So what type of videos are you typically creating for your clients? Is it a mix of, social media videos, more of a, there's a lot of, I'm looking at your website, the storytellerstudio.com, and there's a tab that says our work, and there's a lot of samples there of, videos you've done for your clients. So I think for listeners, if you're wanting to learn more, I think that's a good place to look to see some of your work. Is a lot of it for like more of a commercial or more of like a social media or a mix of everything?
It's a mix. And what a lot of clients are most interested in and what we're interested in is getting them the most value we can for the investment. So if we can imagine just a client who maybe they're just now starting to put video marketing into their budget, okay, and they're like, where do we start? A lot of nonprofits are in this boat. First, we start immediately just talking about the website, right? Your website is the front door of your business now. And so the question is, what do people find when they arrive there? And there's data that tells us that only about 20% of people are reading any text that they find there.
Yeah.
Now, that's good or bad, I don't know. Other people can figure that out. But if 80% of the people, though, if they encounter a video, will click play on that video, then where should our marketing efforts go, right? So that's the first question, is what's on your website? I love it when we do work with clients and then I go to visit their website, like, a month or so later, and right there on the main page of their website above the fold is the video that we created together. Not because of me personally, although I think it's great work, but because I know that means that means visitors to the website are spending more time there. Websites with video, people spend 88% more time on websites with video than not. So that's always the place to start. And then the thing about that is the same approach we would take to create that website video. Film editing is magic, truly. So we can take that, website video, and we can make, 3 or 4, sometimes more, shorter, like bite-sized kinds of videos that you can use on social media, kind of create that idea of a campaign over time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
excellent.
So we end up, we'll spend like a day or two with a client, and then we try to make as much content out of that as possible.
Well, I feel like you explained me to a T. I don't want to say that we're lazy as a society, but I don't like to read if I can watch a video. I think that's why YouTube is so popular. Instead of looking up directions on how to do something, I'd rather you physically show me how to do it. So, that's why video, and I can't remember the statistics, and I'm sure you probably know the amount of video watched today versus what it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago. I
just pulled up a stat, Garrett. So as we're going through that last one, it made me think of, so according to Cisco, 82% of global internet traffic will come from either video streaming or video downloads in 2022. So that was 2022. So 82% of traffic is video related.
Yeah. We don't want to read and we don't want to type. That's why voice commands are so big today as well. It's just the fact. So do you have
every now and then,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, every now and then I get to, just due to the regular ebb and flow of business, I start sort of belly aching with my wife about the future a little bit. And she listens, she's a very good listener. And then she'll wait and she'll be like, okay, so you're imagining a future in which people stop watching videos. And I'm like, oh, you're right. No, that's not happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it really is in so many ways the number one way to reach people. And not only that, but the information you can get about customers based on their behavior now is incredible. I always talk about billboards because I hate billboards. I think it's the most basic. It's like when a brand puts up a billboard, I feel like they're just calling me stupid. Like I hate it. And a billboard, the only reason as a marketer that you think that that works is because of traffic counts, right?
Sure. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea beyond that what effect that's having.
Right.
But with content you post online, you have all the analytics and metrics behind
Yeah.
it. I mean, you can learn a ton about what's working and what's not working over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. I spent almost a year in marketing before jumping into insurance. And so I fought on the billboard thing as well. And, I'm not going to say it's a complete waste of money. I just thought that you could spend your money a lot more wisely today.
Yeah.
And I can remember sitting with an individual, and the guy was pretty tough. I've done billboards and I've done this for years. And he says it works. And I said, well, do yourself a favor. Go stand by the billboard for a half hour. And I said, you tell me how many faces you get that look up at your billboard and I said, unfortunately, the rest of them are probably looking down on their phone, even though they are not supposed to. So where do you see your money well spent? The guy looking down on his phone, or how many heads you're going to get up? And he's
I love this.
He's like, he goes, I can't argue with you anymore. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, billboards
are kind of like, it's like the only reason I think that people have billboards is because the other guy has one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, well, he has one or they have one, so we have to have one. And it's like, if we all just stopped and thought about how much prettier our lives would be without billboards.
Yeah. Garrett and I were joking. We're like, we should put a QR code on a billboard that goes to a video and see how many people, because people are going to have their cell phones. If they see that, they're going to want to click it. And then, you'd see how many people are using their phones to, anyway. No, I'm looking at your website again. It says there's a tab for our process. And it says how we work, no scripts, no storyboards, no pain. So we were talking before this kind of hits home with our podcast agenda. We don't have a whole lot of a script here. We just kind of like to be authentic and off the cuff. So it sounds like you guys have a similar approach to video.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of clients know that video is really important in their marketing mix, but we hear from them that it sounds complicated. It feels complicated. It's like, okay, well, now somebody's gonna have to write a script, and are we gonna have to hire, a voiceover actor or like some, you know what I mean? They just kind of get overwhelmed.
Sure.
And the reality is, the kinds of content that the modern audiences respond to best today are not any of that stuff. It's just real people talking like we are now.
Yep.
Right. And that's not to say that we don't have a clear understanding, and we collaborate with our clients on messaging beforehand, to be clear. I mean, we go into these filmed conversations, we prefer to call them rather than interviews, with everyone has an idea of what we want to get out of this, right? But we don't script people. We don't tell them what to say. We don't allow them to script themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels mean, but our crew's been known to actually take notes like away from people before.
Yeah.
Which, man, try doing that like in the C-suite with like an executive of a publicly traded company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like but what people forget is again, as soon as modern viewers start to feel like what you're saying has been scripted, they're not going to trust your message.
Yeah.
And then the second thing people forget is just the power of editing. One advantage clients have when they hire us is if we embarrass them or don't present them in the best light possible, they will fire us.
Yeah.
So, there's that saying that nothing so sharpens the mind as the prospect of being hanged in the morning. So we are in the editing room, I don't say this a lot because it freaks people out, although it's become really common knowledge. I mean, you can make people say things they didn't say.
Sure.
Now, that's a power that we only use for good here at Storyteller.
Sure.
But all that to say, when you sit down with us, we're going to have an authentic conversation about topics you already know a lot about. And then in the editing room, we're going to shape that messaging and really make it perfect. So from the perspective of our clients, we want the process to be easy as possible because we know it can feel really complicated and really daunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
We actually just released. So, and I might talk to you about this once we hit the stop recording button, Josh, but Garrett and I also produce. So we have two sections of our podcast. One is just where we interview business owners like we're doing right now. The other one we do is called Biz Tips, where we give quick tips for business owners, to do things in their business to improve their business. And we actually just did a throwback to one of our first Biz Tips episodes about doing video. And I think one of the tips we gave Garrett, because I was listening to it in the car just to make sure it sounded okay, was we talked about not scripting and not sounding robotic and not being salesy, because what we see a lot of business owners, a lot of small businesses see that we do video on a regular basis, and they're like, "How are you so smooth at it?" I was like, "You just talk like how are you talking to me right now? You just talk." He's like, "You don't have to." Everybody gets really overwhelmed about, "Oh, I've got to be really professional. I've got to, look." I was like, if you're not like overly suit and tie professional on your regular, daily job, then just be yourself.
Yeah.
And so that was
even
one.
with our guests, a lot of guests are nervous when they first come on.
Yeah.
Can you send me a script of what I'd like to send you a script. Can you tell me what questions? And I'm sure people probably think we're not prepared, which I'm not saying we are as far as that goes, but we really don't have a script. We do our intro and our questions, and then we let it flow. And I think sometimes that's overwhelming because they're like, well, I need to know what's going on. What are we going to talk about? You're going to control it. We'll let you talk about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people try too hard to sell on video. Like you'll see some of these small businesses, especially small businesses, that they want to do a video, but the video is, "Come see us. We have a 20% off sale."
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just not telling your story. It's not really enticing. Yeah. Someone might want to save 20%, but it's not really building trust with the client. It's not building your brand awareness, or, it's not really a connection to that business. So I see that.
Yeah. We talk about it in terms of value. So the most effective videos are really valuable for the viewer. So that means you're teaching them something they didn't know before, or you're showing them something they don't usually get to see, or you're entertaining them in some way that's unexpected, right?
Sure. Right.
Like dog videos on TikTok, like doing funny, silly things, that is always going to be valuable. I don't care who you are, you're going to watch those, right?
Yep.
So I'm not saying that everyone should grow their business by making funny dog videos on TikTok. That would be a bad idea. But the point is, it's not necessarily the place to sell, especially on social media. What you want to do is, the place to sell is more your website, the lower down in your funnel, right? That's the place to sell. The social media videos is really about creating a culture, a tribe, like Seth Godin talks about. Finding your people and then connecting with those people on a consistent basis and talking about things that you're all interested in talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Derek, as we were sitting here talking about that, I just kind of thought, I'm like, when we first started doing this stuff, 4 years ago, just our own videos before we started the podcast, I can remember we'd scripted some stuff, got little to no engagement out of it. While we were scripting it, we messed up, I don't know how many times, and we kept recording. So the most engagement that we got out of any video that we posted was which one?
The bloopers.
So we posted a bloopers, and it was like that. Everybody's like, that's the guys we know, the ones laughing, joking, having fun instead of trying to be serious. And I'm like, we're like, yep, got to be you. Don't try to be somebody else,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's what branding is. I think sometimes people get confused about that. They confuse branding and sales. Branding is just telling your story about who you are and why you exist, over time.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, believe it or not, Josh, we are nearing our 30-minute mark for the podcast. Before we jump off of here, is there anything that you want to make sure the listeners hear about your business, about what you guys do? any tips, tricks, tactics, whatever you want to share. It's your turn to take the mic for a little bit more.
How would you describe your listeners? Who are we talking to? You're talking to a marketer, so that's the first question I'm gonna ask you.
Mainly business owners who are looking to grow, and some people who are not necessarily owners, but maybe leaders in the business.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. First of all, it's really hard. Some days, I mean, yesterday, I'll be honest with you, I wanted to go home at like noon. I was like, this day's shot, we'll just start over tomorrow. But it's a long game. You're growing an oak tree, hopefully, not bamboo. Like bamboo trees grow really fast, and then they die really fast. Oak trees grow slower, but they're there forever. That kind of mindset, it's okay to have bad days. I just like acknowledging how hard it is, because I think as business owners, it's easy to just get to that place where you're starting to feel like it's you. I'm not. The reason this isn't moving forward like I expected is because something I'm doing or not doing,
Right.
And it could be those things, but I think extending yourself some grace is important.
Yeah.
Knowing who you are, having a set of values, knowing who you are and the kind of work you do, being clear about that, and then just being relentless in creating opportunities to do that and finding customers and clients that also share those same values. You don't have to do business with everyone that wants to do business with you. You don't have to.
Yep.
Know who you are, and then the trend toward mediocrity is strong. There's that pull, and I think we probably all felt that, those of us that really want to do great work. And so sometimes I think of myself as like, and the rest of my team here, like we're in a battle, right? We're fighting battles every day in a war that's about doing great work that lifts people up, that tells great stories, that connects people, that improves our communities, all these things. All that stuff requires that we bring our best. So just, anytime you feel that pull towards, because it's always going to be easier. It's like, oh, well, if I didn't try so hard on this one, it'll be okay. That's how mediocrity sticks around and is so sticky, is that we all do that from time to time. So that would be my message to other business owners, I guess. And I'm only 10 years old. I'm like a kid. I'm an adolescent, not even yet.
Sure.
So I'm still figuring it out myself.
Awesome.
Right.
Well, I think that's great advice. Yeah, it really similar to what a lot of our actually a few recent guests. The one that you mentioned was, you don't have to work with everybody.
Yep.
And I think a lot of business owners, especially in their early days, feel like they have to get every single client that they touch, and then it turns into a bigger issue down the road because it wasn't necessarily the client that they should have worked with. And so I think that is a good, work with your ideal prospect, the ones that want to work with you.
I think we forget in sales sometimes it's a two-way street. When I'm talking with a client about potentially doing work with them, I mean, I use words like fit. I want to determine, are we aligned on some of the basics, and not everybody's going to be a good fit, and that's fine. That's there's somebody for everybody. So
right.
And I think operating that way, you're also going to face criticism, right? Because maybe the person you're not hiring is a local, I don't know. There's always going to be, I say, if you're feeling people, not everybody, but some people being critical of you, it's a sign that you're probably doing a few things right.
Sure.
Yeah.
So just having kind of a thick skin, and don't be afraid of that. And again, it goes back to knowing who you are.
Yeah. Yep.
Know who you are. Know what your values are. Know keep that sense of like, why did I do this in the first place? I've been thinking about that a lot lately because we just turned 10 years old.
Yeah.
And just even talking with you guys, like having to tell our origin story again, like it's a good reminder for me of like, this is why I'm doing this, right?
Yeah.
Because in the day-to-day muck and mire, it can get forgotten sometimes.
Well, congrats on the 10 years, man.
Yes, congrats. That's great.
Thanks.
So,
Thanks a lot.
Josh, how can listeners reach out to you if they want to learn more? What's the best way to reach out to you or contact you?
We love when people go to our website because you can watch all our work there. And there's probably great stories that are happening around you guys. I know we've been to Taylorville and Shelbyville. We've been down there.
Yep.
There's probably great stories happening around you might not know about. And on our website, you can watch a lot of that work. So that's the Storyteller Studios.com. And the reason I say it slowly, like we're all in kindergarten, is because I didn't think about, when I named the business, I did not think about all the S's in there and the alliteration. And it's very hard for people. So the Storyteller, which is singular, studios, plural.com. And you can watch work there. We also have a philanthropy program now that we're proud of. And you can learn about all that stuff there. And there's a contact page. There's a place there to reach out if you want. You can also email us at hello@thestorytellerstudios.com.
Great. Awesome. And Josh, once we stop recording, hang around for just a few seconds. I have a few things to run by you. So,
sure.
And for all you loyal listeners out there, make sure you're subscribing to the CIBL podcast on your favorite podcast platform. While you're there, please leave a review. It'd be greatly appreciated. You can also find us on social media, mainly on LinkedIn and Facebook. And you can connect with Garrett and I personally there as well. Until next time, Josh, you've officially been civilized. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CIBL podcast. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It's the civilized thing to do.